How often have you been out to dinner or been hanging out with friends and no one is talking to each other? Everyone is just sitting there looking like this, looking down at their phone and checking social media or texting. I bet every one of you has experienced this behavior before and probably been a part of it as well. The truth of it is that today we live in a society where teens and young adults' main form of communication is through technology. Yes, technology has its many perks, but it also hurts our face-to-face communication and social skills. A study conducted by USA Today found that 1 in 4 people spend more time socializing online via sites such as Twitter and Facebook than they do in person. The problem with this is that it limits face-to-face interaction, which is hurting our social skills, relationships, and emotions. Many kids these days don't know how or are afraid to communicate with one another face-to-face because they're too busy texting all the time. Sure, today's technology has also impacted adults, but they grew up in a time without texting and social media, and they have experienced making conversations with strangers before. Today's generation doesn't have this because they're growing up with iPhones. A few years ago, you could walk into a classroom and if you were early to class, you would have a conversation with the person around you. Now, if you have an extra few minutes, most of us revert to pulling out our phone to entertain us. This is sad because we're missing out on many opportunities to meet new people and enhance our social skills by talking to strangers. Parents worry about their children, worry about things like their children being cyberbullied, interacting with online predators, and their homework suffering from social media. But what they don't tend to pay much attention to is how it affects their social skills. Melissa Ortega, a child psychologist at New York's Child and Mind Institute, says that children don't know how to handle conflict face-to-face because so many things today happen through technology. This also leads them to have trouble initiating conversations. This is very true to our generation. Many of us, starting in middle school, would text or Snapchat someone we had a crush on. But once we saw them in the halls at school, we would avoid them because we were too afraid to approach them or we didn't know what to say. That didn't just happen in middle school. It was the same story in high school. And it still happens today in college. This problem is also hurting our relationships with friends and family. How many times have you been hanging out with a group of friends or been at a dinner where people are on their phone? Just about every time. And we're probably all guilty of doing this. In Mark Glasser's article, How Cell Phones Are Killing Face-to-Face Interactions, he says that the unspoken subtext of checking text messages in front of friends is somewhere else there's someone who I care more about than you, and I want to talk to them more than you. Sure, that may not always be true, but it definitely does disconnect us with those around us. Texting and social media can also affect our emotions. The use of texting and social media can lead to anxiety and depression. A study by the University of Pittsburgh discovered that those who spend more time on smartphones tend to be more socially isolated and shy. This is due to the fact that they aren't being exposed to face-to-face conversation. Though we now live in a society that is run by technology, this problem can still be addressed. There's no outright solution to the problem, but individuals can change their habits in order to fix this downward spiral we are headed in. As a society, we need to cut back on how much we rely on our phones. This can be tough, as many of us already feel like we need to have our phone on us at all times. A 2011 study by the International Center for Media and Public Agenda found student addiction to technology similar to drug cravings. They had 1,000 college students from around the world avoid the use of cell phones and laptops for a 24-hour period, and they found out that nearly 4 in 5 students suffered from significant mental and physical distress, panic, and confusion. While doing without phones isn't an option, avoiding them while socializing with others doesn't seem like too much to ask. To address the problem of kids growing up with smartphones, parents can limit their access to texting and social media and encourage them to socialize face-to-face with others. Imagine a society where it was a struggle to have a face-to-face conversation with someone. That's the direction we're headed in if we don't change our smartphone habits. Our communication habits are taking us in a direction where technology is taking over our humanity. James Roberts, professor of marketing at Baylor University, said that a lot of what used to be face-to-face is now done via computer-mediated communication, and I think that's sad because what we've lost is the humaneness of contact and conversation. We lose the ability to relate to people, to empathize with people. We care less about people. We are headed to a society where everyone is self-oriented. Job interviews could be difficult for people that can't hold conversations or can't read social cues. Child psychologist Melissa Ortega said that, "I can't imagine these kids sitting down in an interview and having a reciprocal conversation easily." Kids that have been stuck behind the screen of their iPhone their whole life just don't have the same social experience as older generations. This not only affects kids' chances of getting a job, but could also affect businesses and our economy. How would businesses function if people struggle to converse with each other at the office or in a meeting? You can't just communicate through email or text. While what I just stated may seem a little bit far-fetched, this is the direction we are headed. The good thing is that there are things that we can do about it. Next time you're at a family dinner or out to eat with some friends, why don't you try putting all your phones in the center of the table? That way you're not tempted to check them during the meal. It may take a lot of willpower, but while you are in a conversation, try to keep your phone in your pocket. Having the mentality of living in the moment can also help. Enjoy your experiences. You don't have to pull out your phone when you're with your friends to check your Instagram feed. You can do that after. The next time you're sitting in a big lecture hall waiting for class to start, why don't you start a conversation with the person next to you instead of taking your phone out of your pocket? It's a great opportunity to work on your social skills and even make some new friends in the process. While we all rely heavily on texting and social media, this is a problem that is continuing to grow, and it is up to us as individuals to stop it.